Jordan Seaton is on LSU's campus. So how's the visit going? You know we've got the deets. It's Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making this your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get great podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Thank you for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Thanks for watching on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network every Monday through Friday. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The college football playoff is here. FanDuel is the best place to get into the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boosts every game day. Well, the big one, literally and figuratively, is here. Jordan Seaton is visiting LSU presently at the moment I record this. It's late Sunday night, but Seaton on his Instagram posted a photo landing in a private plane. It's good to be an in-demand 20-year-old offensive lineman in this era of college football. But Seaton posted an Instagram video on his story landing in Baton Rouge, getting off a private plane. He did make it to campus, of course, and it had been a little quiet throughout the day publicly, as you might imagine, as LSU is sort of putting on the full court press. A couple of details that I can share with you. So the next public-facing tidbit we saw was a photo first shared by Hayes Fawcett, but is shared by Lane Kiffin on his social media as well, with Kiffin, Jordan Seaton, and Lane Kiffin's nephew, who affectionately they refer to as Cookie, on the field at Tiger Stadium. Seaton, by the way, was wearing an LSU hoodie. You might have noticed that Lane in that photo was wearing a hat. It was an Our Lady of the Lake hat. It was actually, if you're watching, I'll show it to you. It was this hat. Well, this is not the exact hat that was on his head, but this design of the hat. Our Lady of the Lake, of course, has been a great partner of ours, but also a great partner of LSU athletics. And very clearly, Lane Kiffin, he drops Easter eggs from time to time. And it's pretty obvious that our friends at the Lake, who've been they're the championship health partner of LSU athletics, they're very involved in the Jordan Seaton recruitment. Obviously, when you're talking about how this is going to happen financially, he will very likely be one of their championship health partner athletes doing an NIL deal should he land on the LSU campus. Lane Kiffin shared a photo after the photo of Seaton, and Cookie. The next photo was just a photo of the Our Lady of the Lake hat. So he's dropping a little tidbit for you there to let you know, yes, they appreciate Our Lady of the Lake and what the Lake has done to sort of push this thing forward. So I can tell you also that after their visit on campus and in Tiger Stadium, Jordan Seaton had dinner at Stab's Prime in Baton Rouge, fantastic restaurant. And from all accounts, maybe a few spies there on Sunday night. The dinner with Seaton at Stab's Prime went exceptionally well. So I say it often when we talk about recruiting. I don't know that a recruit's ever had a bad visit. I mean, they roll out the red carpet. You get to see all the facilities. They give you the swag. They take you to nice meals. It's hard to have a bad time on a visit. But I think LSU also understands just how important this one is with Jordan Seaton for a lot of reasons we talked about. Now, the other thing I can tell you is, Pete Thamel reported that Seaton was expected to go to Oregon on Monday. So remember, he on Friday was at Mississippi State, Saturday was at Miami, Sunday spent the day at LSU. Monday, according to Pete Thamel, he's expected to go to Oregon. However, I can tell you that his itinerary for LSU extends through Monday. And they do have a private dinner. LSU has a private dinner set up for Seaton Monday night at Supper Club. So I want to connect some of these dots for you. And I posted that on social media, and some people pushed back. Well, like everybody has a private dinner, private room. No, understand. So Supper Club is closed on Sunday, Monday. And so LSU requested Supper Club open just specifically for this dinner. So it's not going to be open to the public. They're opening specifically for this dinner. It's the same thing they did 2 days ago and hosted Sam Levitt on a Monday dinner at Supper Club. So this is going to be an interesting one to watch, because aside from this visit going exceptionally well, you're now sort of in a crunch time as well. And let me explain. The last day to enroll for the spring semester is Tuesday. So Monday, of course, is a federal holiday with Martin Luther King Day. So Tuesday, so LSU's closed on Monday. Tuesday, the campus will reopen, and that's the last day to enroll in classes for the spring. So if let's say Seaton hypothetically picks LSU and wants to go through spring practice, well, he's got to be enrolled in classes by Tuesday. So if he gets on a plane Monday to Eugene, Oregon, then the likelihood of him going through spring practice at LSU plummets. Now, I guess conceivably he could fly to Oregon on Monday. He could have his visit on Monday, and he could come out of that visit, and then on Tuesday pick LSU, fly back to Baton Rouge, and enroll. I suppose that could happen. But LSU's not planning on that. I think LSU is planning on him staying the day Monday in Baton Rouge, having dinner at Supper Club Monday night, and then Tuesday staying Monday, never getting on a plane to Eugene. It's almost like NFL free agency, where you never, once you have them in the building, you never want to let them out the building. So I think the idea is woo him, wow him on Monday, figure out all the financials, have dinner Monday night at Supper Club, and then Tuesday have him enroll in classes at LSU. That would be the ideal situation for Jordan Seaton. So, I don't know what's going to happen. I wish I could give you a crystal ball. I don't have that. I don't have a prediction or a pick. What I can tell you is the handful of people I've spoken to on Sunday feel like the visit has gone exceptionally well. They feel like they're in a great spot to land him. I can also tell you that with Jordan Seaton and Princewill Umanmielen, who we're going to talk about in just a quick second, both on LSU's radar, I think based on some of the conversations I've had, this is a very heavy lift at the end of what has already been a very robust portal cycle. We have talked a lot about the finances here on this show. And I know not everybody does that, and that's okay. But it's something that interests me, and it's something I try to share with you as best I can, how the finances work for things like this. Well, when you already consider the fact that LSU is added at this very moment 39 players via the portal, if you want to add Seaton and Princewill Umanmielen, that puts you above 40, and both of those will come with 7-figure price tags. And with Umanmielen, who we'll talk about in just a second, there's likely a very hefty buyout as well. So can they make it work financially? Is there a way to convince both guys to land in Baton Rouge at maybe a lesser dollar amount? Is it just a highest bidder situation? That's something I don't have the answer to. What I can tell you is LSU is very confident. They've put their best foot forward. And the plan is for Jordan Seaton to be in Baton Rouge throughout the day Monday and never get on a plane to Eugene, Oregon. We'll see if LSU can, in fact, pull that off. We'll have an update for you Monday as we know more. Okay, let me step aside. I teased it there, so let me dive into what's the latest with Princewill Umanmielen and also Will Eckles, the defensive lineman from Ole Miss, who caused quite a stir around Baton Rouge with some of his social media posts on Sunday. We'll dive into that next. It's Locked on LSU, your team every day. College football playoff is here, and FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game day of the playoffs. Because right now, every college football playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. And here's what I love about it. You get to use the profit boost on the bets you already feel good about. So, championship game is upon us. you feel great about Indiana, boom, ride with the favorite. Maybe you want to take a shot at the underdog if you love Miami in the championship game. Or you can build a parlay around the players and moments you think decide the game. Then you apply the profit boost, go after even bigger winnings. And when you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect for playoff football. FanDuel is the best place to get in on the action all playoff long, so visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boost every game day. That's at FanDuel.com. So as we keep an eye on Jordan Seaton, the other big target for LSU is Princewill Umanmielen. If you're not familiar, Princewill Umanmielen, his brother Princely Umanmielen, was a Florida Gator and ultimately transferred to Ole Miss to finish out his career there. Now his brother Princewill Umanmielen is at Ole Miss as well, and he's another one of these big time elite level edge rusher defensive ends. So Umanmielen is, just to give you the bio, he is 6'5", 245. He's out of Austin, Texas, started his career at Nebraska, transferred to Ole Miss. So he played 23 games at Nebraska over 2 seasons, and then in 2025, transferred to Ole Miss. Played in all 15 games, made 1 start, 44 tackles, led the team with 9 sacks, 15 quarterback hurries, 3 pass breakups. You could tell a very effective edge rusher. He's 6'5", 245. Yes, he's an elite level edge rusher who has 2 years experience at Nebraska and then a year at Ole Miss with a couple of years of eligibility remaining. So the bottom line with Umanmielen right now, though, is he's not in the transfer portal. And so this is the very complicating factor, okay? So let me explain kind of how this works. So the transfer portal deadline was Friday at midnight. If a player was not in the transfer portal by Friday at midnight, then you can't enter the transfer portal. That was you don't have to commit to a school by Friday at midnight, but you have to be in the portal by Friday at midnight. Well, Umanmielen's name has not yet appeared in the portal, but here's what's important to note. There's a process that players follow to be in the portal. Number one, there is an online form that they have to fill out. Once that form is filled out, it goes to the school's compliance office, and then the compliance office submits that paperwork for that student athlete to the NCAA. Once the NCAA processes that paperwork, then the player's name appears in the transfer portal officially. Well, as of right now, Umanmielen's name is not in the transfer portal, but it doesn't completely eliminate him from entering the transfer portal. If Umanmielen submitted his paperwork in time before Friday, which all indications are that he did because he announced that his intention to go in the transfer portal, Ole Miss, it sounds like, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist here, but Ole Miss, according to reports, was trying to block Umanmielen from going into the portal, holding him to his buyout. So Umanmielen apparently signed his extension with Ole Miss for the 2026 season. Very similar to Damon Williams, the quarterback at Washington. He announced he was going to go in the portal. He had a very hefty buyout. Washington, the Big Ten, we're going to hold him to that $4 million buyout. Ultimately, the schools that were considering him, namely LSU, said, yeah, I don't think we're going to pay $4 million buyout and pay you on top of that. So he stayed at Washington. Well, similar here with Umanmielen, that Ole Miss apparently is trying to block his entry into the portal. Well, they can't do that. They can't, they literally, and I don't want to say legally, by the NCAA rules, can't hold his paperwork. If he submits it, he's got to go in the portal. They have to submit his paperwork to put him in the portal. Now, he does have a contract with a buyout. And the buyout, I've been told by multiple sources, is north of $500,000. So this would be expensive for LSU if they're going to pay Umanmielen a 7-figure deal and rev share, however they structure it. And on top of that, have to pay a very sizable six-figure buyout. Well, now you're talking about a very expensive player to get potentially. So that's one component. Like, you have the on-field component, which is undeniable. This is a 6'5", 250-pound edge who had 9 sacks this past year in the Southeastern Conference. Do you want him? Of course you do. You look at the edge position where you have Gabe Relaford coming off of injury, young players like Dame Shanklin, Kalaj Cobbins, Dylan Carpenter, and then you, on top of that, add Jordan Ross from Tennessee, a former 5-star, Jaylen Brown coming in from South Carolina, Achilles Woods, who's a guy they're sort of betting on the come there with Achilles Woods. But the point is, you can add a dude that, was a 9-sack guy in the SEC. Absolutely. LSU was in the mix and hosted, the elite edge rusher from Missouri on a visit. Looks like that probably isn't going to happen. They moved on in that direction. So Umanmielen would make a lot of sense. On the field, it's a no doubt. It's a question of financially, can LSU make this work? Number one. And number two, how do they make it work with him actually going in the transfer portal? So if he submitted his paperwork in time on Friday, which I'm assuming he did, and Ole Miss ultimately submitted his paperwork to the NCAA, which they would legally be obligated to do, then remember, the NCAA is closed Saturday, Sunday for the weekend, and then Monday for a holiday. Well, the NCAA will reopen on Tuesday, so will LSU's campus. So Tuesday, in theory, if Ole Miss did submit Umanmielen's paperwork, as they are obligated to do, his name could pop up in the portal Tuesday when LSU and Umanmielen can formally have a conversation. I hope I did a good job explaining that. I know that's a lot, but suffice to say, I don't think we're going to get an answer on Umanmielen Monday, unless if he just says, forget it, I'm just going to stay at Ole Miss. Now, the other thing I had been told about Umanmielen is that it might be a highest bidder situation. Ole Miss is working to keep him. LSU wants him. I think he wants to be at LSU. But I was also told Texas has sort of interjected themselves for Princewill Umanmielen in that sweepstakes as well. So Princewill Umanmielen, in those sweepstakes. So just file that away and keep that as one in mind and how that may play out. That's one probably that leaks into Tuesday right up against the deadline to enroll in classes to be eligible to participate in spring football. So as that one develops, we'll certainly keep you posted. Now, there is another Ole Miss defensive lineman. That's Will Eckles, who found himself in a very interesting situation that set the internet on fire Sunday morning. I'll tell you what I know. And LSU added a 2026 commitment. We'll tell you about him. It's Locked On LSU, your team every day. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever just to hand things off and move on with your day. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person, or you can connect online. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or guesswork. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to make sure you get every deduction. It's a huge time saver, gives you real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling it. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150, all in, if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. So all you have to do is file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. That's TurboTax.com/local. I want to talk about Will Eckles in just a quick second here, but I want to thank you again for making Locked On LSU your first listen of the day. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, please go check out our new Everydayer Club. Gives you access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On LSU. It's compatible with Apple, Spotify, all the major podcast apps, and it invites the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes group chat just for listeners of this show. So please tap the link in the show notes if you want to learn more. So Will Eckles kind of set the internet on fire. If you're not familiar, Will Eckles is a really talented defensive lineman from Ole Miss. And he was one of the guys, along with Cam Franklin, who LSU was interested in bringing in via the portal when Lane Kiffin was hired, but ultimately decided to stay. Eckles just finished up his junior year. He's 6'3", 310. He is a really talented player. I should say he is going into his junior year after playing in 8 games in 2024, played all 15 games this year, 11 and a half TFLs, 5 sacks, really disruptive interior defensive player. Well, Eckles on Sunday morning posted a photo of an SUV, very nondescript, in front of a building with a pin. This was on his Snapchat, with a pin that said Louisiana State University, effectively identifying that he was at LSU. Now, I have not been able to confirm that Will Eckles was at LSU. Based on the conversations that I had, I think Will Eckles was maybe trolling LSU fans. Now, it may come to light that Eckles did submit paperwork with Ole Miss and intends to go in the portal and wants to visit LSU. I don't know that answer. Okay, I'm being very transparent with you. It sure sounds like Eckles, his intention is to remain at Ole Miss. And one other thing that I don't know that this is any concrete evidence, but I did attend LSU, and the photo of the SUV in front of a building sure didn't look like any building I've noticed on LSU's campus. Could it be the side of a random building somewhere? Yes, maybe. I find that hard to believe, however. So the other thing to remember is until a player's name officially enters the transfer portal, not when they fill out the paperwork, when their name officially enters the transfer portal, only then can that player have communication with a potential suitor and go on a visit. So Eckles, his name not yet in the transfer portal, it can't have contact with LSU staff, or LSU staff can't have contact with him. So that feels like, and I'm speculating with a little bit of an educated speculation here based on some conversations I had on Sunday. I think Eckles is maybe just having some fun, as young people on the internet are wont to do. I don't know that it makes a lot of sense that Eckles would end up in Baton Rouge. Now, someone who is going to end up in Baton Rouge is Jackson Williams. Now, if you're not familiar with Jackson Williams, this is the guy who LSU jumped in on late high school recruiting process, and they got his commitment over the weekend. So let me kind of fill you in a little bit here on Jackson Williams. So he's a safety from Archbishop Shaw in New Orleans, and he is going to sign with LSU in the spring signing period in February. So he's a defensive back, was on an official visit to LSU this weekend, and ultimately committed to the Tigers and will sign in the February signing period. 6'2", 180 pounds, as we mentioned, out of Archbishop Shaw in New Orleans. He's a 3-star. He's previously been committed to both Tulane and Washington State. But late in the process, LSU offered him a scholarship, took a visit over the weekend, and decided to commit. He now is the 16th commitment of LSU's 2026 high school signing class. You might remember already Amari Williams has committed to the LSU Tigers just in this last week. So, I'm sorry, Amari Peterson, forgive me. Amari Peterson, who's a cornerback. So that's 2 defensive backs here very late in the process that have now committed to LSU. If you just look at the safety room for 2026, you return to Marcus Cooley and you added Ty Benefield from Boise State, who some would account for as the best safety in the transfer portal. You've got Deshaun Spears returning as well. My best information through conversations with staff members is that the plan is for Cooley to play free safety, Benefield to play strong safety, and Deshaun Spears to play the star position in place of Harold Perkins. So Perkins was outstanding in space. He was a little bit of a liability in coverage. Spears makes up for that liability in coverage and is still very athletic enough to go tackle in space and rush the passer. Remember, you also added Aiden Hall out of Edna Carr in New Orleans and Isaiah Washington, another Louisiana high school prospect in this high school class. And you return Jace Thomas and CJ Jim Coyley. Jim Coyley probably fits in as the star. That is the star linebacker spot. That's where he kind of played throughout the course of the season. But you lost a ton at safety. You lost A.J. Hulsey, Jordan Gilbert, Joel Rogers, Jacob Bradford, Javen Toviano, Austin Osbury. So a lot of your numbers were gutted there. So when you look at it with Cooley, Benefield, Spears, Aiden Hall, Isaiah Washington, Jace Thomas, CJ Jim Coyley, that gives you 7 players at safety / star linebacker. So that should be enough. But after your first 3 with Cooley, Benefield, and Spears, you're really light on experience. And that's where you could have a bit of a problem if you have an injury. Now, you're very talented with your front line, but it stands to reason you would love to have some more experience depth. That may not be the case, but you certainly have some guys to bet long term with in this class that you've added. So it is Jackson Williams out of Archbishop Shaw, New Orleans, the latest commitment for the 2026 high school signing class. Okay. We're heading into a holiday. I'm not sure we're expecting gigantic fireworks, but we could see it if, in fact, the thing we're watching is whether or not Jordan Seaton, the number 1 offensive tackle in the country, gets on a plane to Eugene, Oregon, or stays in Baton Rouge Monday. That likely will be your answer if he's picking the Ducks or if he's staying in Baton Rouge. And whenever that happens, we'll let you know. So subscribe on podcast or YouTube and let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you every day for Locked On LSU. Your team every day.